we talked about the level of competition. Now imagine competing like that every day and you get hurt. Now you're alone.
The other cool thing is that you also played basketball at the same time at BYU.
Man, I come from like an entrepreneurship capital of the world in Utah. Like, man, what should I be doing? Like, what can I do?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ignition Point. I'm Debbie Hart.
Shawn Finnegan. Today we have Bronson Kaufusi, and if you can't see him fully in the video here, he's a very tall, massive human being. I really watched him at BYU first, and you can always see you were head and shoulders above the size of all the guys on the field, and I loved, you know how sometimes when you're watching, I could just really zone in on you and watch your brilliance in there, just slamming, knocking down the quarterback. And then the other cool thing is that you also played basketball at the same time at BYU. You know, so you're getting all those rebounds, everything else, and then you go to the NFL, you get drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, and then you went to the Jets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
And then you went to Green Bay,
yep.
And you took passes from the great one.
The great one.
Aaron Rodgers.
He's still going. I'm excited for this season.
Yeah, so he's back at it again this year, which is nuts. But absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you.
We just did a men's festival, and Bronson spoke to this big crowd of men and really made a great impact. So it's an absolute honor to have you here.
No, thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I love what this stands for, the messaging.
You have a similar message that started with your dad. Would you like to share that with us? Yeah.
Yeah. So going to your point about that story, it's funny growing up, in high school, I was a freshman going into the varsity basketball games, and my dad coached for almost 30 years, college, played in the NFL. He'd always tell myself and my siblings the same message. And, from that point, I mean, even when we were little, like actually with sports, I'm thinking about it, but I felt like it meant a lot as a freshman when you're playing with the older kids, because you're a little nervous as a freshman and you're playing with the seniors, and it's like, oh man, you just want to do your job and be good. And my dad's message was, hey, whenever you go into the game, be the spark, because every coach needs that. So when you go in, they're looking for momentum. So when you get the coach is looking down the bench, he's pretty much choosing a person to bring into the game, especially when it's not going the way it should be.
Yeah.
Like what can he's going through each person thinking, what can they bring? What can they bring? Who's going to spark? Who's going to be the one to really change the momentum? And so my dad, that was his message to us. I was telling you about it, and so that's, whenever I'm going into a game, getting subbed into a game, it's like, I'm going to do something like that.
You're going to run harder.
Yeah. If I get a chance to hit the quarterback, I'm really going to hit him. And I'm not just going to hit him and get the ball out. Change the game here.
Right.
Be that game changer, be the spark. And then because, in sports, it's so tangible, the energy. And if you can go in and make a play that sparks energy, every single person around you can feel it. And
that's true.
Even people on the sideline. And then you think about fans in the stands, they can feel it.
Yeah.
Just by how you play. So be the spark, to your point, to that, that was that's always been in my head my whole life when it comes to sports.
And you also shared at that event on Saturday, you shared an experience about your dad I thought made a big impact with the group. So love to hear that one as well.
Yeah. A lot of people would ask me, hey, where does the energy come from? Where does the happiness come from? That's just who I am. And I've always been that way. And, it kind of took me some time to realize where that came from. And I remember I was playing, at BYU. My dad, he came from Tonga. I mean, his house, there's so many kids. I think there were 6 at the time, but they lived in this little hut. And probably about less than half the size of this room on the island, right? And literally he had come from there to America and then found football, and it changed his entire life. And so now I'm second generation playing that game. And I remember, one of the coaches after a game, he was watching the film, and he kind of took the took his light or the pen and started circling, me on the screen and was like, hey, how are you going so hard right now? Because it was the very last series. I'd been in for like almost 100 plays. Like, what's going on? Like,
Why are you running so fast and like with all your might?
Yeah,
right?
and but we just played. You've been playing this whole game. Like, this is kind of rare. Like, we don't look at you're passing people up. Like, what's going on? And I remember sitting there, and it hit me that like we were playing against Middle Tennessee State, and I remember looking to the sideline, and I saw my dad in his normal stance, hands on his knees, looking out, watching the game. And then it hit me. Literally every single sorry, I told you this is good. This is something that like
such a great
it all hit me at that moment. I looked over, and when I saw him, I was reminded of, you know what? Do you know how many people sacrificed to be here? Like, how many people sacrificed so that I could be here for in this moment? His parents, his siblings. And looking over him, I even made me think about, like, my life is so different than from what he grew up with. Like, growing up, he would change, They'd all wear the same pair of jeans. They'd rotate shoes, because they'd have like holes in their shoes, so they put cardboard in them, switch them. I never had to experience that. Never. And his goal was always, he'd tell me this, because his dad would tell him this. It was, I want your life to be just a little bit better than my life. And then it kind of hit me when I'm standing there looking at him, like, how I play directly affects, him and his family, because I was a coach's kid. And I was a player. Man, it's hard to be tired when you're thinking about that and coming from that place. And that's where you have endless energy. And so I could be out there all day, honestly, because it wasn't about me. I just had this amazing opportunity, and it's incredible because, I felt like a lot of players and athletes feel that way, and they have those moments where, not everybody gets to go out there and run out on game day. Not everybody gets to be at practice when it's 100 degrees, humidity's at 100%, and you're dying out here running these sprints, and, for me, that momentum shift, man, whenever I think about that, it changes it for me. So then from that point on, when I would go out to the game, I would reach down and touch the grass and look to where my dad would be standing. And in college, he'd be there, right? And it'd be just a mental cue to remind me that I get to play this game and I get to come out here. And no matter how hard it was. And then in the NFL, I would do the same thing. And now he's not there on the sideline, right? But I would just envision him standing there because, what the NFL offers, right, is now, now in college you can get paid to play now, right? But in the NFL, it's like, it means even more now, because now, how you play affects my wife, my kids, the food. I'm competing against guys every single day, where we're pretty much competing for each other's food off each other's plate.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's the level of competition at the NFL, NBA, every major sport you can think of. That's what you're competing for. And it's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
That's why it's like, man, do I get tired if I'm doing that, competing for that? No.
So as you came out of the tunnel in the NFL, that was a tradition you would do in every stadium.
Yeah.
is you would touch the turf,
Touch
and
the
look
turf,
over.
look over, every time. And then even like my first play, same thing, you know. And so, because my dad was a coach my whole life, so he really didn't come to a lot of my stuff growing up, because he was always busy like recruiting and things. So, you know, for me, I learned in college, like he was there. Now I'm with him all the time, and then all of a sudden, then I'm not with him, and so
Use that to basically bring in the strength of like what your dad did for you and the sacrifices.
Yeah.
And then also what you represent in your family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because it just goes deeper. I feel like it's hard for people to I mean, I feel like it's easy for people to forget like really what that is. And so for me, that was the spark. You know, that was the spark of this is why. Because it's easy for us to, I feel like a lot of people forget the why, and then we hear that the why, but the why, if you remember the why and there's no emotion, it's not it. You need to remember your why needs to be attached to real emotion. Like I can't talk about this without, you know, tearing up and, you know, and crying, because it was just so tangible. It's so real. It's so real to me that, like, you know, everything I do is attached to really the family. You know, I have opportunities that my grandpa would never think about, never heard of, never, you know, and it's like, but that's what he wanted. And so if I waste those opportunities, if I waste that time, it's like now his sacrifice and what he did, you know, is for nothing.
But I love that you're bringing that impact forward. So you found your spark and your why for you, but now you've taken that and you're bringing that to others in a really big way. You talked about earlier about the struggle of NFL players or athletes in general feeling lonely, the struggle with the injuries and what do they do now, and also that most of them, even after making 80 or 90 million a year, end up poor or bankrupt within a few years. So you have found ways to bring your spark forward, what you learned on the field for you at the time now to impact other people. Will you share with us some of that?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. So just some background and some numbers for those who don't know. You know, close to 80% of NFL players will be broke within 3 to 5 years.
After making many times millions of dollars.
Millions, yeah. I mean, the minimum right now, the minimum in the NFL is $800K a year, and that's the minimum. So, you know, for me, I mean, I graduated in statistics and analytics, and I know stats really well, and I didn't want to be that stat. I did not want to be one of those guys. And so I just, you know, once I was being in the league, I mean, you see, we talked about the level of competition. Now imagine competing like that every day and you get hurt. Now you're alone. And back to what you said about being alone. In the NFL, it's 100% chance you're going to get hurt. So what does that mean? 100% chance you're going to feel lonely, because you're going to be off the field, you're going to be separated from the team, they're going to be playing games, you're going to be by yourself.
New players coming in,
New players coming in.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to draft 2 players in your spot and then invite 4 to come, and you're going to be competing off of that single spot. And so, you know, you kind of get in this, you know, some are better at handling it than others, but it's high stakes. What happens, you know, almost all players don't choose when they stop playing. They're either too old, they get hurt, right? Or they bring someone that is better than them. So,
ouch.
Yeah, ouch, right? Like, and that's what people
Yeah.
forget about the
So
pro athlete
competitive,
career.
nuts,
yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy.
Right.
So for me, okay, what I view, and I had a unique experience, and this was the spark. You know, I watched players in the locker room who had businesses while they were playing, who were, you know, doing things I had never even thought of doing. And
Because all you really knew going into that also was just, I know football.
yeah, and I'm here
Right.
to compete, and
Right.
but there were like 1 or 2 guys on the team that were doing business.
Right.
They were entrepreneurs. That's really what they were. And then I was just inspired by what they were doing. And I was like, man, I come from like an entrepreneurship capital of the world in Utah. Like, man, what should I be doing? Like, what can I do? I was completely inspired, got so busy in the off seasons. I'd work out And then I'd go and have lunches. I'd go meet people. And then I started to learn, and I kind of knew this from college, from playing on the basketball team. You know, athletes have such a unique platform, and in the sense of they can get into different rooms and access to people that a lot of other people cannot. As soon as they're done playing, those doors shut. So that's on the business side, right? On the other side of it, it's the greatest platform because you can use it to change people's lives. Young kids, you know, anyone, communities, their lives can be changed. And so this platform is so valuable to an athlete, and a lot of them don't see that. And so, you know, for me, I didn't quite understand it. And then as I was going, I started to understand, wow, there's a lot more that I can do in business, getting to know people, relationship building, because when I'm done, you know, then
what?
Then what? But this is what's crazy. So I learned this. So the power of connecting and relationships. When I was at BYU, I got to know the donor base and the alumni. I learned it through basketball because there's less people there, and you get to learn and be around, you know, incredible donors and alumni and entrepreneurs, because they travel with you to games. There's only 15 people there. Now, when they travel with the football team, there's over like 100. And it's because there's more people, there's more of a wall. Well, I started to get to know these people when I was playing. Fast forward to the NFL, I remember I'd been hurt. I got hurt my first year, played the second, third year. They pretty much told me like, hey, we're going to cut you. I already knew going in. Well, I was like, okay, give me some playing time. I had my best preseason ever and still got cut. Okay. Well, you know, they tell me this. I say, thanks. I'm at the facility. I go down to my locker. I grab my bag, put all my stuff in it, big black bag. I call my wife and say, hey, I just got cut. I got released. Like, I'm going to have to talk with my agent and see what's going on. All right. I get in the car and I drive home to my apartment. So my apartment was maybe 15 minutes away. The news hit the media. My phone starts blowing up. And it was all the relationships that I had built in business, and all these people were texting me saying, hey dude, are you done playing? Like, do you need a job? Like, right. What are you looking at doing next? we should meet up. Like
immediately.
Oh,
yeah, just like start hitting you.
Literally immediately.
Right.
And so now what does that tell you? Like, that story is so powerful because it tells you the power of, being active and just getting to know people, connecting with people, building relationships. And athletes think that they don't have a lot to offer, right? Outside of the game.
Yeah.
But they have intangibles, discipline, effort.
Yeah.
They're finishers.
Every business person wants to know what happens in that brain that you can play at that level, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
And so that's why it was so cool to go this really low, getting cut, released, calling my wife and telling her, like, I don't know where we're going to go. Like, I don't know if there's a team that wants me. I have no idea. To coming home, she says, I don't know what's going on. And next minute I have pretty much like all these job offers, like overnight, or over minutes, like, you know? And so it was really cool to see that.
So then you landed with the Harrison Group.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And
yes.
So because of those relationships that you talked about, that when the NFL was done for you after 6 years, then you had something.
Yes.
You wanted to really pursue.
Yes, because when I had gone from the Raiders to the Jets, I was like, I got to learn about something that I could bring into the locker room, because I saw that the locker room, that is a really unique level of trust. Just to be in there, there's a very small percentage of people, right? Out of college athletes, it's like less than like 2%. And then you go, you go to the locker room and it's like, we're to win, win football games, which is true. But then we have the stat of close to 80% going broke within 3 to 5 years. It's like, wait, what's going on? So there's a level of trust here that needs to be capitalized. And so that's when I was like, well, let me go start in real estate. It's a safer asset class. It's a hard asset. You got a lot more control. I'll start there. Found a partner. He was willing to teach me everything as we went. In the off season, I'd meet with him. He'd keep me on all the email threads. And then literally I would take everything I learned and I take it back to the locker room because I'm in the locker room. And so I just started to help a lot of guys understand the power of real estate. And then all of a sudden, as we were going, that scaled into what it is today, which is Harris Investment Group. And so I've just been loving being able to help so many professional athletes, understand, real estate, investing, how to get themselves set up while they're still playing, building a hunger to learn and the hunger to be curious about business, and, telling them and helping them understand when you show up to a networking event or something like that, how do you go talk to people?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
It's an awkward thing. Yeah.
You take a pro athlete who's made catches in front of thousands, millions of people, and you put them in a networking event, they're a little bit like, whoa, like, what do I do?
It's a new environment.
It's all new.
Yeah, it's not their realm.
They don't know their strengths.
Yeah.
As a football player, they know their strengths. As a business person, an entrepreneur, it's like, what am I good at? So helping them see, like, no, this is just like football. You didn't get to the NFL overnight. You literally started when you were probably really little, just trying to catch a ball.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. It's like you have to teach them the same exact skills and patience that it takes to get good in that space.
Well, one of the points you made on Saturday was when we were young, we always heard, "Don't let them see you sweat." And I think it's just, and your point was that's an old school way of thinking, and now the new is be okay with leading with your emotion, right? Having emotion involved in your interactions and your relationship building, and I really respect, you even sharing the emotion you had in that story with your dad today, and be willing to really bare that soul and bare your heart to the people that watch this, because it's a powerful, powerful story, and you were okay standing into that with your emotions today.
It makes it relatable for them, knowing, because if you don't let people see you sweat, then when they're at home watching, thinking, I could never be that person because I have emotions, I have weaknesses. And so it's only when we're vulnerable and share that we had those emotions, we had those weaknesses, and here's what we're doing to process through that. It makes it relatable so that they know they can achieve that level too.
Yeah, but I think, I appreciate it. It's funny you say never let them see you sweat, because that was something, that I heard all the time, but I learned. I was like, wait, I play so much better when I have a lot of emotion. And as a leader, like my teammates, right, when I had opportunities as a leader, they could feel, because emotions, you feel them.
Yeah.
And it allows, a leader to lead in a different way than just bossing people around words, and even just connecting with people, right? Like as entrepreneurs, I mean, the best entrepreneurs can tell stories. Well, these stories bring emotion. And so really, wow, the greatest entrepreneurs they're always letting people see them sweat.
I think it inspires people to want to build your vision with you when you share that, instead of trying to force and compel people in to build something. They're not going to stay very long if you're coming at it from that way, versus sharing. That endeared me to you, hearing that story, because I wasn't there on Saturday. And to watch you share that, now I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan too.
So in closing, just I think a two-parter, unless you have any other things. But number one is, I want to hear what you learned, because you worked with one of the greats, Aaron Rodgers, and you worked with a lot of incredible players. But what was one thing you learned from Aaron Rodgers? And then two is, what's your parting advice for entrepreneurs, that want to get the spark?
Yeah. I would say, man, Aaron is incredible. There's so many things I could say about Aaron, but probably one of the greatest things I learned from him is the greatest leaders, the people that they lead, they can feel the love that you have for them. Now it's like, well, that's crazy, right?
No,
like,
that's good.
As a football player, no, Aaron, you knew that he cared about you individually. The man's a hugger. He's always hugging everyone after games, before just anytime he sees you, he's gonna hug you, and he just wants to know about you, and I think that was so incredible. Now, on another side is when it comes to work, he's the hardest worker in the room. He's the quarterback. Never shied away from doing the hard stuff. And then also, he's one of the most deliberate people when it comes to being into the details. Like, he's so deliberate with the details. It's like scary. And that's why he's so good. And that's why it's scary, because I played against him too as a defensive player. And that's, I mean, he can see things, you know, before they happen, because he's watched so much film, so into the details. So yeah, I love that guy. He's gonna be good this year. So
Yeah. And then parting advice.
yeah.
Yep.
yes, parting advice for entrepreneurs. You know, you only go as far as your community around you. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs can feel alone in the challenges that they face. And I think it's important that entrepreneurs build a community of people, not just their company or their business, but other entrepreneurs, other business people, and then not just go to stuff and see other entrepreneurs, but reach out and ask questions, ask for help. That's probably one of the most important things. I see it in entrepreneurs. I see it in professional athletes. You have to be willing to ask for help. Like, if you need help, ask someone. And you have no idea how fast, because entrepreneurs are connected. Athletes are connected. It'll get down the line so fast, and you'll get the help that you need. So just ask for help.
Very good.
Powerful.
Yeah. How can everyone follow your journey?
Follow my journey.
Instagram's really good. You post really
Yeah.
good content.
Oh, okay,
For
yeah.
sure.
I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaufusi90.
Be Kaufusi90 on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. I post a lot of mindset stuff. I have a page called Young Athlete Society.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
mindset stuff. There's a mindset course there.
Made a big impact with a young, you know, because he took advantage. Obviously, he got the advantage of being in the NFL, where they have some of the best mindset coaches, and he extracted some of that information and got it to high schoolers that high schoolers don't normally have access to.
Wow.
So go check that out as well.
Yeah. Check
Okay.
that out. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Honor.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks
much
so
for
much,
joining
Bronson.
us today.
Thanks, guys.